technology and we tell the stories that matter. We are here at the exquisite and lovely Park James Hotel. If you haven't had a chance to spend a night here, I urge you to check it out. And we are super grateful for our sponsors, Nicodex and Primero Negocios. Primero Negocios is your engine for growth. So if you're building a company, you need visibility, you need marketing, you need technology, and tried and true experts, Primero Negocios will have their information in the show notes below. And of course, Nicodex. So if you're building technical products, and they're your offshore, and they're your team in Mexico. They've done some amazing work for our community. So Weber Mobile Products, be sure to check out Nicodex. Well, what a trip, and this is amazing. We are so pleased to have Ken DeLeon. We're going to be talking about what it is to pivot and adapt. And so maybe let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Ken DeLeon, you're a real estate magnate, a wonderful human being, clearly the world's fastest dancer that we saw. So Moon and I and the team here are just so thrilled, Ken, to have you here. So maybe let's kick things off a little bit and share a little bit about your background here.
Okay, perfect. I guess I'll try and get a little of my show here. So maybe just a little start, just a few minutes here. I figured in this few minutes, maybe I'll just, sorry, I get a little nervous. A few minutes, maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about my life. And the hope is that maybe in the next 5 or 6 minutes, then maybe I can change your life! Because life well lived is amazing. And that's all about what it is you want to have that pivot to your highest potential, pivot to your greatest strength. Exactly.
I'm working for you tomorrow.
That's right, brother. Actually, you said we're doing a midnight meeting. I'm looking forward to it. But taking things as they are, embracing it. And then the key is, how do you live a life so well you don't fear death? And I think I've gotten there. But the way I've gotten there is actually through coming very close to death and some hardship. And then through that, I think you gain a greater appreciation for everything. And you just don't want anything to go to waste. So I can tell you about, I had some success in my life. But actually, it's my failures and the hardships that led to the success. And I think the key is so many times people talk about what's going well in life. But really, if we kind of analyze internally, you know, what's going hard in life? What can I learn from this? How can I grow? How is this a launching pad to the next level? That's where you can achieve your greatest potential. And I can tell you now that I've had 4 really intense hardships, but each one gave me greater wisdom, insight, and really helped me learn to become the best I could be. And probably the hardest hardship I had was when I was a child, where I had a sister, Jane. She was amazing, more impressive than I was, clearly more intelligent, more athletic, just this beautiful person who was kind of like a second mother to me. My parents were divorced, so we spent a lot of time together, her and I, really close. But the thing is, Jane, like a lot of young women, she focused on what she lacked in life. She didn't like her clothes, she had concerns about her body, and then so she lacked self-confidence. And then when her boyfriend broke up with her, it was too much for her. And I was the one who ended up finding her. And it was very hard for me, as you can imagine. But from Jane's loss, what I realized is, how can I learn from this? Where the person I love most in this world, I held dead in my arms. And I go, there's lessons from this. I'm going to grow. I'm going to take what's great about her, take her inside of me, and then achieve her and honor her potential. And then through that, I really kind of became a different person. Before that, I was a people pleaser. I wanted other people to like me. I changed my personality to have them like me, and that was what got her in trouble. So I said, my sister's fatal flaw was lacking self-confidence. I'm going to take that little sliver of difference, and I'm going to amplify it. I'm going to become so confident. I'm going to proclaim my own greatness. So your greatness should come from inside out. So many times we look for external approval, this person to approve us. When we don't live that great life, we should. But I think just proclaim your own greatness. It comes from inside out. And then through that, you're going to draw people who are the most like you. So from the loss of my sister, I learned so much. Things were going so well in life. And then during the speech, I'm actually going to answer 2 questions that are pretty intense questions. One, what is the purpose of life? That one actually is easy to answer compared to the second one I'm about to answer. This is a question that's plagued theologians and philosophers for millennia. And that is the question of why. Why do bad things happen to sexy people? Look at this audience. It's a very sexy audience. I can see it, especially, you know, you're a bold woman like I'm a bold man. But a sexy audience. But I know we've had some hardships that have happened to all of us. But I will answer that question as to why bad things happen. So don't you worry, your life will be changed tonight, and it's going to be amazing. But from the loss of my sister, I was feeling so good, and then I got to be so confident that I had a favorite dance partner. So my favorite dance partner, who's also my therapist, is my bathroom mirror. Oh, perfect. Oh, I love Cameron's your friend. Here you go. No. Love you, Cameron. But what I did is, I think my metaphor for dancing is my metaphor for life. And that I dance completely free. I don't care what anyone thinks about me. And I'm just like going off. And I consider myself the greatest dancer out there because I have so much great fun. And nobody can start a party like I can, because most people, like, they don't want to be the first one. I'm like, yes, because I worry about, like, hurting people, these long limbs flowing around. But people see me dance, they're like, wow, everyone's gonna talk about that freak. I can dance however I want to dance. And I set the party free. And that's what you want to be in life. You want to be that spark that ignites people. Because the greatest gift in life you can give is freedom. And the irony is the way you give freedom is for being free yourself. And if you're being free yourself, dance like a madman. I'm living in a glass house, I'm not throwing stones. So then people feel free to be bold. So life was going so great. But then, well, just graduated from law school at Berkeley, about to start this big job. But then I came back to Florida and I had my second tragedy, where I was walking with my father on the sidewalk, and then a car, and then actually the street, and about a 20-foot grass divide between the street and the sidewalk. But then a car going about, according to witnesses, 45 miles per hour, veered off, hit my right leg, but there's scarring all up and down my leg. But actually, catapulting upwards, I smashed through the windshield, ended up inside the moving car. Made nationwide news. But then I felt the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. I kind of got wedged into the front seat, smashed through the windshield here. But I feel new blows come down upon me. And I look to the left, and it's a vision I'll never forget. And it's my attacker. He's driving with his left hand, and he's beating me with his right hand. And I look at him, and his eyes are completely dilated. He's totally sweating, and I realize he's on some sort of crazy drugs, and my life's on the line. So I smash through the windshield, feel these new blows upon me, but can't go into shock because I know my life's on the line. So I plead with him, stop the car, I'm hurt, what are you doing? And then he starts screaming at me, get out! And we're weaving in and out of traffic, going 45 miles per hour. And I have to confess, I was not wearing my seatbelt. So I really, I know it's a bad, but at least when I smashed through the windshield, now I have an excuse for all the brain damage I actually had before the accident, but now I can blame it on the accidents. But I was inside the moving car for 3 miles, the driver's beating me, pleading with my life the whole time, just running red lights. Finally, we hit a red light. He can't get past because there's cars in all the lanes of traffic. He stops. I immediately open the door, fall down on my bad side. He screeches away. Later there, police come. The 2 police officers who got me, they're towering above me. They go, what happened to you? I was hit by a car. I ended up inside the car. The driver was beating me, and then he pushed me up here. And then the 2 police officers go, he's in shock. It was just such an extreme story. But then they got the 911 call from my father, and they figured out that was him. And they later found him, and he got 7 years in prison. I know 7 was too little, but I really should have died, but you can't control things. And then I could go on forever, but what ended up happening was the trauma from the car accident. I ended up feeling some pain in my lower back, and I ended up getting a tumor the size of a softball from all the trauma here. I had a lymphoma, so then I had that. And then while I was there in the hospital with all this pain, and also from the accident, I was in a lot of pain, but also having all these epiphanies and growth. And I'm like, what is important to life? And that's made me realize maybe I shouldn't be a lawyer. Life is so short. I want to do what I'm passionate about. And I started having all these epiphanies about what's important to life, about living the life I want. And I realized actually there's a lot of growth to the sadness. And then so what is the purpose of life? Before all my car accidents, I would have said for me, my purpose of life was happiness. I want to be as happy as I can and make those around me happy. And I'm pretty good at that in the dance floor. But there I was in the hospital having all these epiphanies and life growth. And I realized actually no, happiness is good, but it's really just a byproduct of a life well lived. I want to embrace the full spectrum of emotions because my life purpose is now growth. I want to grow and evolve as much as I can and help those around me grow too. And that's why I was so honored when Nick and Human mentioned speaking about pivoting. Because to me, how do you optimize life? It's about always kind of being in the moment. Living life as improv and kind of changing as needed and having that awareness of it. Because life is so short, but it's so great when you live it well. So then I had all these cancers, beat them all. Now I dance like a rock star. People would never know I've had all these, hardships. But I have to say, I'm actually thankful they happened. Because I'm a much more fulfilled, powerful person than I would be if I didn't have that. So I would say to everyone here, seek that intense life. Seek that hardships. Because when your boldness has its own genius, and if you kind of get, the more challenges you take, the stronger you're going to get. I keep on trying to be a lifelong learner. I graduated business school, I barely graduated when I was 50. I just had a new child at 51. So like, always take on new things, take on new excitements, because then life is so amazing. So again, why? Why do bad things happen to sexy people? Actually, we have it reversed. It's the bad things that make us sexy. It's the hardships in life and the growth that comes from that, speaking of a fellow person who understands that. So no, to live that bold life, take those chances, and we'll all rise, and we'll be in the sexiness of life, dance forever, coming together. So we're looking forward to this conference. It's going to be amazing. Let's change some lives around here. Let's all have some fun, and let's just be free, because life is so short, but it can feel like an eternity if you're dancing with your best friends. Let's go.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's been a great night.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a wonderful
Here every Tuesday.
Obviously,
there's
there's a million directions to go from there. But let's start with pivoting. You went to Berkeley. You went to Stanford. From an academic standpoint, you're the cream of the crop. But you weren't originally studying real estate. You were studying to be a lawyer, correct? So tell us about leaving Wilson Sonsini, Goodrich Rosati, and transitioning to real estate, that pivot.
So I think it's the key in life is kind of always being what you're passionate about and where you see the greatest opportunities. And, as I mentioned in the hospital bed, I said, life is short, I want to do something I'm amazingly passionate about. And I found I was very good at law, but it didn't excite me. I might die tomorrow, be hit by a bus, I had bad luck moving vehicles, so I want to be happy now. And then when I bought my first home in Palo Alto, I just thought, man, this business model is flawed. It's not really designed for the client at all, it's really designed for the agent. This whole, this largest purchase in your life doesn't seem right. So I kind of had this passion for real estate. And then I just finally got I said, life is so short, let me take this passion and my expertise. And I think a lot of success in life can competing in the right places. So when I was at Wilson Sonsini, everybody was a brilliant person. Everybody went to a top 10 law school. It was a very efficient business model, very well run. But then when I bought my first home in Palo Alto, I was like, man, nobody's really doing it right. So I think if you see an opportunity where sometimes I think in Silicon Valley we're always drawn to newness. And the key is if you see a problem yourself that you're finding in the marketplace, other people probably experience that same frustration. And I said the level of service for real estate is so low around here. You have such a winning business model in law firms or medicine. And then real estate was so I felt basic. So I thought this is a good time to let me kind of pivot to a new field, combine passion with expertise. And it's been just kind of this huge rise because I've tried to think about what are my clients' problems and how can I solve them.
So Ken isn't going to brag about himself, but the Wall Street Journal considers him the greatest realtor in the country. And let's talk about real estate real quick. So how long have you been a realtor in the industry? What year did you start?
Oh, Human, did you call me the Steve Jobs of real estate?
I did.
Oh no, sorry, that was CBS News who called me that. Sorry, just checking. But
telepathically.
I felt it. So I've been in real estate for 22 years, and in the first 9 years, I ended up kind of doing what everybody else was doing, but just doing it better. And then I got ranked #1 in the country, and then I thought, now that I've mastered the game, let me try and change it. And then that's when I created my own company with a new business model, much more client-centric.
What's the most expensive home you've ever sold?
What's the most expensive home in America? I sold the most expensive home in America in 2011 for $100 million.
Tell us about that now.
Okay, perfect.
Let's hear a little bit.
It was probably, just to tell you what a great negotiator I am, it was probably worth like $102 million. But it's just, it's kind of fun where you have a client who wants what, doesn't exist. So I actually hired like a helicopter. We went out there, tried to find the biggest parcels, wrote letters, talked to all the top agents, and then finally, through all this due diligence, found an off-market, somebody who was thinking of selling. And it was a special property. David Packard used to own it, 20 acres, Los Altos Hills, and they spent $70 million building it, so you get this land and this beautiful structure, and then it was a perfect fit for my client.
So you talked so much about Silicon Valley. Help us understand, so you do residential or you do commercial?
Oh yeah, exactly, sorry.
Yeah.
So I do residential solely. The big picture is I try to find out where's the competition the weakest. Because the weaker the competition, the more you're going to stand apart. So in commercial real estate, you actually have some pretty smart people with a pretty good business model. Residential real estate is more, what I didn't like it, so if you look at elite law firms or elite medical practices, it's all about specialization and having a team of salaried specialists doing what they're greatest at and do it repeatedly so every time they get better and better. Real estate's the antithesis of that. Real estate is jack of all trades, master of none. One person tries to do everything. Oh, let me try to be contractor and recommend some repairs. Let me try to appraise the property. Let me be the leasing agent, the listing agent, the buyer's agent. So my model that I created was that I'm going to have 55 employees. And I like employees because everyone in real estate is an independent contractor. You can't tell them what to focus upon. But by having an employee, just as you would in a law firm, you have this expertise in interior design and being a contractor or whatever it is. Just do that and do that repeatedly and become better and better at that. So that way I try to separate yourself from everybody else to succeed. So if everybody else is doing it this way, the traditional model of one agent, jack of all trades, master of none, and we're unique, we have this kind of team approach where you hire us, you get 12 people, 12 specialists.
But you do a lot of commercials yourself though.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I don't do commercial real estate, but we do a lot of TV commercials.
So we really like to demystify emerging tech and kind of use technology as a platform to help us get that edge. How are you using technology? Are you using drones to kind of capture footage in the homes? What are you seeing that really works?
Yeah, so that's where, so real estate is going through a period of rapid transformation right now. So it's kind of an exciting time. I haven't been this excited about real estate since 1910. I used to be good moisturizers, but I'm 132. But in 1910 is when they created the business model that we have now, which is the seller pays for dual commissions. But they're coming out with a new business model where now the seller will pay the listing agent, but the buyers will have to be paid for directly by the buyers potentially. But a huge fundamental shift. But I'm excited by that because I think anytime there's a change in the industry, there's a huge ability to change your business model. So what we did is a huge pivot on our business model where now what we're saying is that most agents are very fearful of these changes. We're actually leaning into this and kind of embracing them, almost accelerating it, getting out to the clients, spending like $500,000 in marketing, telling clients you don't have to pay your buyer's agent, work with us. But I think our business model, which more or less by having everyone on salary, we try to create what's best for the client. And one of the things that's most attractive is that if we're on both sides, if we're the listing agent and we're on the buy side, we waive 100% of the buyer side commission. So I just try to be fair. Like I try to take a step back. Everyone always likes, how has it been forever? Instead, when you're evaluating your business, take a step back and say, how should it be? If I were the client, what would I want to see? And I think that in today's world, there should be a commission-free alternative to buying a home. Where a lot of buyers, they do all the research themselves. They should have, some buyers want to learn a lot and get a lot of insights. And those people should, kind of have the ability to pay their buyer's agent. But also, if somebody finds the home themselves, does all the research themselves, as technology gets better and it's helping the clients almost approach the expertise they could have, they should be rewarded. So I think you are seeing some technology in real estate, but I think also a fundamental shift in the business model that we're trying to lead the charge in the consumer's favor.
So as we were prepping for today, half hour ago, you said there's going to be some law changes in terms of the buyer and the seller. Can you talk about what those and how you forwarded that movement and that conflict of interest?
Perfect. So big picture, I felt there was a fundamental conflict of interest where most agents they call it double end. They want to be on both sides of the transaction, thereby double their commissions. To me, that always seemed like in law, my lens is as a lawyer, it always like, how can you can't have the same attorney on both sides. To me, it's fundamentally illegal. So what we wanted to do is like, we think that there should be an ability where maybe the brokerage is on both sides, but every client should have their own agent to represent them. And then our revolution was that we're saying that when we're on both sides, we're going to waive 100% of the buyer side commission. And we came up with that 8 years ago. We've saved clients about almost 20 million in savings. But the nice part is the way the model changed, where more or less the Department of Justice said we need to have new models where the buyers pay for the buyer's agent. It almost lends itself to what we had. So I feel like we created a model which is 2 agents but 1 fee, which I'm hopeful will be the future of real estate in America. Because real estate, it really is your best investment. Why did I leave law for real estate? I'm very passionate about real estate. I think it's the best way to financial freedom. But I felt that the level of expertise being provided wasn't high enough. But I think that real estate's amazing. It's just and people don't have trouble paying a fee, but they want to feel that there's a lot of value there. So I just try to, all I think about is how can I add more value to the clients.
So you're an expert in this area, in the Silicon Valley. This is where you do, but you're looking at the trends throughout the country.
Correct.
Let's talk about San Francisco.
Yes.
Okay, the city, as most of us realize, it's a shell of itself. It's not what it was pre-pandemic. What would you say to somebody who says, I want to buy a house in San Francisco right now? Like, what do you see in terms of the real estate market of the city?
The San Francisco, probably my favorite city in the world, but really it's sad to see that, when Ed Lee was there and very pro-tech, it's the most exciting place to be in the world, and now it's kind of as you said, a shell of itself. But I do think actually there's always cycles, and I'm somewhat hopeful that artificial intelligence really, San Francisco's become the epicenter of artificial intelligence. Not Silicon Valley, not New York, but really San Francisco. So you are seeing a lot of, and as you know, that's obviously the hot field right now. It's getting the crazy billions in venture capital funding. So to me, I actually feel that San Francisco probably bottomed out January of this year. So I think if you have a long-term horizon, like a 3 to 5 year horizon, it's a good time to buy in the city. Will prices be higher in a year? It's hard to say. Will prices be higher in 3 to 5 years? Almost guaranteed. But I would buy, condos have taken a pretty steep hit right now. Post-pandemic, everybody wants single-family homes. So condos you can get a really good deal on. So it might be interesting, a good time to get a good condo or get a place in Seacliff.
Especially if you're BlackRock, right?
No, they're really, it's, and if you look at, one of the things that, I'm always trying to think of new innovations, and again, if I was a client, what do I want? A new innovation I'm rolling out would be for buyers. I really feel I have the ability to predict the market better than anybody. Not that I'm perfect. I was wrong once in 2007. But something I'm coming up with is I really do have the ability to analyze the market. I really believe in this market. So the new model we're coming up with is that if you buy a home with us, we're going to get you a good deal, and we're going to, we think we're going to have it be an appreciating asset. But rather than just saying that, we're going to say that as long as you hold the home for 2 years, that we're going to predict that the home is going to sell for more than you paid for it.
But if it doubles every 7 to 10 years on average, right?
On average,
yeah.
Maybe maybe not quite as much in the future, but historically it has, and will still go up. But what we're going to say is that as long as you own it for 2 years, then when you go to sell it, that you're going to sell it for more than you paid for it. But if you sell it for below what you paid for it, then the commission we got, say typically 2 or 2.5%, we're going to give that back to you. Because if you, the client, are relying upon our recommendation that you should buy this home, and we feel that's a good time in the market to buy these homes for these reasons, and we're wrong, there should be a performance component to real estate. Why should, if you lost a quarter of your money, why should the agent be like, yeah, I get my normal fee, right? No, it's like a financial advisor. There should be some, so what I want to do is I want to create aligned incentives. So to me, I thought real estate's the largest asset class in the world, but the amount of expertise and sophistication you see in stocks, none of that's applied to real estate, and I think it can be. And I spoke at Stanford a lot in business school about we need to apply this rigor to houses, but there's a very sophisticated way to buy homes I try to teach my clients. I'm not bragging, but I'm just saying I'm kind of proving my model, which is I try to move every 2 years. So what I try to recommend to my clients, buy the fixer-upper that's in terrible shape, buy the home other people don't want, live in it, I do the repairs right after I leave, but you can do the repairs ahead of time. But I buy the fixer-upper, I buy the home that is so bad that my clients won't buy it, I try to sell it, it's a good deal, nobody wants it. I end up buying that home, and then I live in it as it is, because I already see the after in my head. but when I go to sell it, then I remodel everything and I get top dollar. And I've done this 4 times in 10 years, and I'm not bragging, but I've made over $7 million, and on my initial down payment was only a little over $300,000. So I took $300,000 and made a $7 million profit. To do this, I had to live in some pretty junky homes. I had to when I was remodeling, I moved out and I had some discomfort to optimize everything. And I tell my kid, I have 4 kids, now 5. But I go, this is how daddy makes, this is how daddy buys you toys. I'm doing this, so it's okay. But I just felt the level of sophistication in real estate is not where it should be. People are like, oh, buy this house, and they don't give it analytical rigor or anything like that. They don't stand behind the product. So I want to why leave when I left Wilson's and seen this really prestigious firm for real estate, everyone's like, that's a step back. But I go, it's a step forward in the sense of this is an industry that nobody's really doing it right for the client. And at my law firm, it was a really sophisticated law firm. They were really helping out the clients. But I think in real estate, people need to be shown the path because my clients are geniuses, as everyone in this room is as well. But when you do something 1 to 3 times in your life, buy a home, build a home, it doesn't make sense for no matter how smart you are to become expert in it. So you really want to have a good agent that you can trust. And I think trust is key. And that's why I try to I'm trying to signal to my clients, you can trust me. Because the quicker they trust me, the more I can give them great insights.
So let's just say this person is in the room.
Yeah, I like him, actually.
This guy. And the person comes to you at the end and says, Ken, your talk was so incredible. I loved everything you said. I'm ready to sell my condo in Hayward for $500,000. I'd love you to represent me. What would you say to them?
I love you too, brother, but I'm probably not the best person for that one. So one of the things we do, I think I'm all about playing to your strengths. So to me, I want to always, if I'm not the best person, because most agents, they'll chase the sale. They're some people my license is good from San Diego to the Oregon border, I'll sell anything there. And they chase the deal and I think that it's a disservice to the client. So I have a lot of good recommendations where I try to know the top agents in all the different areas. Joe Shrembry in Fremont. But I think the key is we have a very, more or less Palo Alto and about a 5-mile radius around it is always serviced. But Hillsborough, San Francisco, Saratoga, very high-end communities. We don't sell there just because we want to become the best, and best is through expertise and going deep.
So we've got a lot of founders and funders and friends and family in the audience here, including my mother and father-in-law from Columbia. We want to know a little bit more about how to take an unfortunate situation that happened in your life and spin it. And we were talking a little bit about how you can reframe a situation, and before you sleep, which is where the random access memory goes to the hard drive, you can actually change how you perceive these things long term. Unpack that for us, Ken.
Yeah, no, and it gets fascinating. So big picture, I think so much of life is reframing, where you should be your own greatest cheerleader. We're the one universal in our lives. People will come and go out of your life, but you're always here. And what I find is the majority of people have too pessimistic of a viewpoint of themselves, where I'm always always being positive about myself, because self-fulfilling prophecy, the greater you envision yourself, the higher you'll achieve. And most people hurt themselves. But I had a really good insight where one of my Stanford professors, who's more of a guru, less business and more positive psychology, but he had a really interesting insight, which is when you have memories in your life, they actually only get embedded and into your mind when you sleep. So events happen to you during the day, and they go into your short-term memory queue. But it's only when you sleep that they go into your long-term memory. So what he said is that when an event happens to you, if it's a seemingly traumatic or negative event, you have the ability to kind of change the tape before the tape gets hardwired into your brain. So say you have, I think in Silicon Valley, one of the things that sets us apart is our love and acceptance of risk and acceptance of failure. And I've been a huge proponent of that, where people see me from the outside, they think I have all these successes, and I have 1,000 failures I could tell them about, but the failures kind of led to the growth, because the failures are where all the lessons are. But what my professor mentioned is when you have that traumatic event, reframe it. You have that huge deal that would have changed the course of your company, and you lost that deal. Rather than oh my God, the day the company's going to go bankrupt or over, reframe it and be oh, it's a shame I lost, but I learned a lot of insights. I bet you the next time I'm going to win, this is what I'm going to do differently. I'm so thankful I had this experience. but by kind of, you have the ability to reframe in your head before it gets embedded in you. And then you can just know, I'm a winner, and it just comes in throughout. And like, I just constantly push myself, and whenever you're successful, you get jealousy. I have a lot of real estate agents. I'm doing things that are different. I'm, lowering commissions. I'm providing more services. So not everyone loves that. The clients love it, but the other agents don't. But I just like, what's important to you in life? And I think to me is living that great life where your life had meaning, where I don't fear death, but I do fear living a meaningless life. I fear mediocrity. So I think by pushing it, but anytime you push it, those failures will come, but reframe it, pivot, and then I've had so many hardships in life, but I view this is the launching pad to kind of fire off my rocket ship. The lessons I'm going to learn from here are going to get me there. And when I think one of the things that helps me, when I'm in the abyss, when I'm in that hospital room, feeling all this pain coursing through my body, I'll try to envision, wow, I'm going to learn so much from this. I'm going to become an even better dancer. I'm going to become more free. I know, I didn't think it was possible. But great question, Nick. Thank you.
All right, this is going to be the last question before we open it up to the audience. So if you have a question. So we can't watch TV without seeing a commercial for DeLeon Real Estate. What percentage of your homes actually get sold as a result of these TV commercials?
Slim to none. Candidly, it's all about conversations at the Park James Hotel. That's where business gets done. I think the key is a lot of times it's just a matter of like, when you spend your marketing budgets, and I'll probably spend like 8 or 10 million this year in marketing, big proponent of marketing. Someone's got to keep the economy going. I would try to think, how can we be unique? And TV commercials, no one else is doing them. So like, will they actively, get somebody who's on the couch, like drive to that open house the next day and buy a home? Probably not, but maybe. But they'll be like, this company's trying harder than anybody else to do it. I've never seen anyone else advertise on here. So I think just kind of position yourself to differentiate yourself, and then I'm all about playing it forward where like, I'm kind of marketing for 20 years from now.
So would you say 15% of the time, 50% of the homes get sold because of the commercials on TV? 15%? 10%?
Yeah, probably 5.
5%.
Yeah. let's have Sharon Byers kick us off here. Sharon, go ahead.
All right, I need to hear about the Church of Ken.
Oh, excellent. So I'm a pretty religious person. I'm a big believer in the Church of Ken. But kidding aside, really what the Church of Ken is about kind of the church of self, kind of creating kind of the love of self and acceptance of self that helps you get there. I did take it pretty far, where I do have, of course, I have to have the 10 Commandments. And the 10 Commandments, they're all thou shalts. There's not a single thou shalt not in the house. Because in the Church of Ken, you define yourself by action, not inaction. Thou shalt dance in celebration of life. Thou shalt live life and not spectate upon it. Thou shalt eternally be sexy. Those are 3 of the commandments. So I do a lot of speaking and a lot of sermons, and I get a lot of people, they cheer me on, they go, "Hey Ken, hey Ken." So that's really nice. And I've picked up a lot of Kenbergs over the years. But kidding aside, though, I do think you do want to create that church of self, because we're really our own greatest cheerleaders. Like, we're a very special, what you have inside you is uniquely great. So I think try to find out, like, don't cater to other people. What is unique about yourself? What unique thing can you add to the world? And take that light and run with it. And maybe it's the church to get you there, because you need to celebrate yourself, dance in celebration of yourself, because life is hard. But like, I've had so many, like, I used to be a big dancer, but when the car hit me, but I got really good at chair dancing, which is dance. And kind of as a metaphor, the dancing, I actually am a terrible dancer, but I have so much fun doing it. But before, my legs would be like a 9, I'd be like going all over the place, but my arms would be like a 3, they're just sitting there. But then after my accidents, when I couldn't move my legs, I got really good with my legs, my body. And now my arms are like an 8, and my legs got a little worse, maybe they're a 7, but overall I'm a better dancer. And that's just the metaphor, like, I lost something because of the accident, but with the right mindset, I gained more from it. And then it's just like, you can always rise. So when things are taken away, one door closes, but 2 open. So don't be afraid to say no, don't be afraid to take chances, don't be afraid to, and people, it's that transition that's tough, when you're leaving the known and jumping to the unknown. That's what, my sister couldn't make that transition, but like a lot of entrepreneurs, when you're kind of taking that leap, believe in yourself, because the rewards come later. Like when I started out my new a new campaign with lowering fireside commission. The backlash from the other agents was immediate, but the positivity from the client base took months, and now it's coming in. People love me. They really love me. No, I'm just kidding. But don't be, handle the backlash, because live for yourself and find your purpose. And then if you have your purpose, there's really no limits to what you can achieve.
From a technology standpoint,
Yes, sir.
do you utilize things like virtual tours or SMS texting if a property becomes available, sent out to your buyer pool?
No, great question. So that's where technology is definitely becoming more pervasive in selling real estate. And I think the future of real estate is probably going to be lower fees and more technology. So for example, during the pandemic, when people couldn't attend things, we did a lot of virtual, we hosted virtual open houses where we would take people through. So no, we definitely use like very detailed 3D tours. We can really, it's like you're going through the house. We're working on things now where people can give us our pre-approval letter. They might be able to access the home without just letting us know they're coming, and can access the home if they want to view it on their own. So we are trying to incorporate more technology into videos and things like that, into selling homes. And I kind of want some animatronic agents to maybe lower my head count. Oh, how are you? Chuck E. Cheese went bankrupt, so I'm going to try and buy some of those. But I do think technology can serve more of a role in real estate, but also I think the business model needs to improve as well. So I'm trying to tackle on both fronts, but great question.
Oh, over here.
Oh.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you so much for your talk and inspiration and your positivity. I can tell that you're super passionate.
Thank you.
And it's great that you're innovating the real estate space. I do have like a serious question because you kind of answered it, but I'm like confused now. Are you a religious person? I didn't know if you were joking about the Church of Canada. I was serious. Like, do you believe in God? Like, I was actually legitimately curious about your personal beliefs, and because you overcome so many hardships with such positivity and you just radiate enthusiasm. So it's very inspiring.
Oh, thank you. I would say that I'm not so much into organized religion, but I kind of believe in force and flow. So I think everyone should find their own path. But I do kind of feel that there's something out there beyond myself that gives me kind of like hope and power. But also I think so much lies within our hearts and our ability to kind of like create our own lives and sustain ourselves. So kind of a combination of the two. And I think a lot of it is just like kind of finding what works for you. Where I think a lot of times people have these are the 7 steps to take. And I think a lot of it is that what works best for yourself. And then it might be, because I'm an avid reader. I read Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy. I take a lot from the Greeks and the Stoics, but also Nietzsche. But the Chinese philosophers are so I just kind of draw from a lot of religions and a lot of philosophies. But I think there's just so many brilliant people in this world. I love reading, but what I think I love most is Silicon Valley, where I've never been around smarter people in my life. I grew up in South Florida. South Florida is a great place to leave. But I just love the conversations I have with people in Silicon Valley. Everyone's brilliant, everyone's interesting, everyone's open-minded. So I somewhat treat my clients a little bit like demigods as well, because I view everyone as someone I can learn from. A good question, thank you. Yeah, forget me. I was young and dumb.
Okay, hi Ken. I want to go back to something that Nick was talking about, which I'm going to call the RAM sleep. Is there science, philosophy, I don't know, technology, Church of Ken, ideas, best practices to sort of bring that to your own life? Because you touched on it, but what does that really mean? How can you really do it?
Yeah, no, I
change that during your
How do we become as motivated as you?
No,
right?
No,
that's not it? All right.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, if I'm going to go to bed tonight and I love this idea, what do? I write the things down that I want to turn into positivity, or, I want to know how to do this.
Perfect. So I think the key is when you have that negative event to reframe it in your head. So just kind of what are the positives from that event? And if you kind of look hard enough, you can always find positives in it. So I think if you do dissect that event hard enough, then you can kind of reframe it, and then it gets installed in the hard drive. And that's a little redundant from what I said earlier, but let me give you a new one. So there's also something else, which is, there's 2 types of thinking. They call it type 1, which is more fear-based, flight or flight. And then type 2, when you're more calm, and then you can think your deep, brilliant thoughts. And then very often we end up in type 1. But also there's ways to get to type 2 that can try to like accelerate yourself to get to that kind of out of fear. Sorry, I'm losing the mic, but one of the ways to do it is you just want some sort of physical, thank you. You want a physical trigger. So sorry, that's another tip for my Stanford professor. No, dancing could be involved, but something physical. So whatever your most happiest moment is, to envision that. So I think of walking on the beach in Carmel with my wife, and then like I'll hold my hand like this because I picture her holding her hand. And then if you do breathing, where if you breathe in 4 times, breathe out 8 times, and then you focus on the positivity, then you can go from type 1 thinking to type 2 thinking in about 2 or 3 minutes. So that way it kind of like sort of reset during the day, where like it's been, because we live so much in stress. I think Silicon Valley, we achieve so much, but we're hardwired to achieve, we're more than anywhere else I've seen, except for maybe New York. Like, how do we get the most out of this one life? So like, we live very intense lives. So I think sometimes you can kind of, as a result, feel that tension being type 1 thinking. So to get in that type 2 thinking as quickly as possible, as often as possible, taking a break is good. And I know I'm kind of being superficial here, but you could research more, but there's good ways to kind of get there. But I think really, big picture, I believe in therapy, I believe in all these things, but also I really believe in the power that we can create our own lives, and we can kind of, I'm my own, like, I know myself so well. I feel, I just, I can really kind of, I don't need a therapist at this point because I just dance it out. And also, yeah, if you're ever in a bad physical state, a bad mental state, I think change your physical state. Like literally, I do use dancing to dance my way out of depression. And I'm just like, and then also too, like life is short. Like so, like what do you like? How do you? If I had an extra hour a day, what would I do with it? I'd probably work out because they show all these things. Exercise is so important. No, actually, I'd probably dance because it's just so much fun. Actually, no, maybe you should see my wife. It'd probably be sex.
But hoping maybe your wife was here, I could hold her hand.
Yeah, no, but the key is I've combined all 3. So sex should be dancing, should be working out, and then that way I can do it all. But
write that down.
Yeah. but when I go to the club, I'll drink a lot of champagne, but I don't have a beer belly because I'm the guy who's like going crazy. So like I don't know, life is so short. I don't ever wait. Like people wait till like midnight before they can dance. I like first good song I'm out there. But just don't wait. Create your own life. Sorry, I know I'm digressing.
It's all right.
All good.
I've been a vocal person over here going, whoa, yes,
Yeah,
yes, I love that. I think I first saw you dancing at an event at the Four Seasons by the lovely Silicon Valley Magazine host. But I think one of the things that struck me the most was how you actually put yourself in the buyer's seat. Because people are selling some crap properties, and we're paying some ridiculous prices. And the fact that you said you lived in some crap properties, to get that, to understand it, and I admire you for that, although I can never live in a fixer-upper, because I'm like, I need something I don't have to work so hard for. My question really does boil down to somebody who's interested in getting into the real estate business. I do know some people, my family. What would be a key, like number one, this is the do or die lesson to be thinking about when you're entering that market? Because right now we have cookie cutter realtors. They just, the decks are not included in the appraisal. But the decks you could die on, that personal story. So what would be that one thing for somebody who's really trying to get into that business that we could take away from this topic?
So I think one thing that's good in real estate, but probably in any kind of service industry, I actually constantly try to think about what are my clients' problems, and then try to solve their problem. So for example, the fixer-upper, those are the best deals are the fixer-uppers, but my clients were like, I can't live in a fixer-upper. And then they see the amount of work that's required. I think of 3 things. Who do I even call? How long will it take? How much will it cost? People don't like uncertainty, especially with their largest purchase ever. So I thought, but they're losing the best deals in the world are the fixer-uppers. So I hired a loss leader where I had my vice president of development, Matt Griffiths, brilliant guy, master's from Stanford in construction management, where when we have clients buy a home, on a complimentary basis, he's like, I have the perfect architect, this is the right contractor, this is the interior designer, let me look at the bid, I'm going to research the bid for you, I'm going to tell them, no, this is the right pricing, I'm going to come in every week to check on it to make sure they're going, and then you can call me at any times. And then kind of through and then just kind of knowledge, what else do I want? When I was I want to buy a second home in Carmel, tell me about the neighborhoods. So I thought about the neighborhoods, so now I have all these Palo Alto, I have 24 neighborhood guys where here's the pros and cons of each of the neighborhoods. So really give a lot of insight and knowledge. And then big picture, differentiate yourself. So many people are homogenous in this world, doing the same thing that they've been doing forever. And like, people don't want to offend, but by not being so fearful of offending, you're not going to attract anyone. So I have a lot of like, kind of bold ads. Like I had one like, YMCA guys. I had me instead of YMCA, I was in SOLD. Ken sold over $1 billion this year. But there it was like, proud Indian chief, gay biker, policeman. But like me and these crazy outfits, because like, just stand apart, be bold. And then the key is like, even though I'm the top guy in this area, my market share is only 8% because there's so many hundreds of agents. So like, I just need 20% of people to love me. And then I'll be dominant. So like, don't try to like, everyone's so doing the same thing because they don't want to, differentiate. Differentiation is key. It's a great question. Sir?
Question I have kind of more from the younger perspective that kind of sees real estate as something that's like really hard to achieve, especially given the cost of living and the cost of real estate, even just getting into it. So what advice do you have for the younger folk looking to get their first place?
No, great question. We're really like, I worry about, because I think you could probably, pay the mortgage, because the mortgage usually is not much more than rent, but the down payments are exorbitant. We're like, how am I as a, kind of just starting out, going to save, $500,000 or things like that. So I think the key is something's better than nothing, where I think like people might try to start with their envision buying their dream home, and now I'm finally living my dream home, but I had to live in a lot of nightmares to get to my dream. So kind of being open to things, so like, maybe buying something where like you have to commute a little farther, but ideally I would love for you to buy a single family home instead of a condo. And it's interesting too, there's a lot of tax advantages to real estate, but they've actually, Trump somewhat limited those a little bit, but there's actually more, now there's more tax advantages for rental properties. So one option would be you rent where you are, but you buy investment properties elsewhere. Because you get depreciation, like the limits, the ceilings you have on your personal residence, only $750,000 of the mortgage is deductible, property tax only $10,000, no limits at all on investment property. So actually the tax advantages to investment property are better, and maybe you can get something for like, do you even want to invest in California, Nevada or Florida have more appreciation. So I wouldn't be against either buying somewhere a little farther out, but kind of like working like whether it's a fixer-upper or some sort of compromise you're having to make, but at least you're getting in, because the first one's the hardest. Once you have your first home, then that equity can go to the next one, but it's getting in the first one. And maybe friends and family, if you can have, somebody help you out, because that's where, to me, like if you could, like, I'd say if my clients were under 35, probably like, almost half of them get parental help. So if you could, you get help at all, and then you can pay it back later on. But I think that buying the investment property is not a bad call because the tax advantages are pretty great. You can even be, but in the end you want to, sell those investment properties and buy here.
All right, I think we've got time for one more.
All right, I'll make it good. Ken, this is Preeti here. I used to live in Palo Alto, and I remember seeing all your brochures. They were pretty good and pretty sexy.
Oh, good, thank you.
I wish I had reached out to you then, right? But great meeting you now. You talked to us about the routine of before going to sleep. How do you reframe? Tell us about your morning routine. How do you make the day great?
Perfect. So I think so much of life is mindset, where like generally people wake up, the first thing they do is they look at their emails, and you just get this jolt of stress, like, oh my gosh, all these things I need to do. So the first thing I do when I wake up is just walk out the door and then like just look at the beautiful world. And I try to spend about 5 or 10 minutes just kind of almost meditating and appreciating, like, wow, I'm so lucky, I love my family, I love where I live, I'm so thankful to be healthy and I beat cancer. So I kind of do almost affirmations like how amazing my life is and how thankful I am to be here and all the people I love. And then I'm just like, more than coffee, that's just like my jolt of energy, like, let's go, like, let's, versus like, oh, the shades are down, like, no, like, enter the light. So I think kind of like just appreciating everything, and I think part of just having come so close to death, I don't take anything for granted. So I'm like, I just want to be around amazing people. And one thing I feel lucky to be alive. When you're hit by a car going 40 miles per hour, 90% of people die. I saw some statistics. So, but the one negative is when people are really kind of like, how some people rob your energy. And I just politely walk away. I don't have time for that. Like, it's just like so many things like, oh, you go to this foreign event, like, all we are is our time. So be very protective of your time. I'm very like, borrow my car, drink my beer, but don't waste my time. So I really try to make every day matter. And I think just positivity, exercise at the start.
There's one more.
Hey Ken, I'm Leslie Lang.
You know
First
where you
of all,
shop.
don't call the cops because it's illegal to be this sexy.
Aren't you a registered weapon in Oregon?
Thank you for tonight. Thanks for trusting us with your personal information. I want to pivot it to me. I'm looking for an emotionally available, age-appropriate man who can cook that also has a bunker. I'm going to be 57 in a couple days. Obviously, I'm fantastic. But while you're out there, I just want you to think. Anybody single that you can think of buying $100 million houses? I can concentrate. So,
you got everything going for you. It won't be hard. Only the cook part. A lot of my clients don't cook. DoorDash. They'll pay for DoorDash for life.
But that is important because we always want to be valuable to our zombie community. So how can our zombie community be valuable to you, Ken?
Oh, I love these questions. It's been amazing. I think just knowing that there's a better way to do real estate, kind of knowing in your hearts that like life is short and you want to kind of live the best life you can, knowing that no one can hold you down without your power and that like we have the ability to uprise ourselves, and knowing that we should be the best dancers out there, and then the worst dancer you are, probably the better dancer you are in your heart, and that's all that matters. So I say it's just been a joy getting to meet everybody. I'd love to kind of talk to everyone afterwards. But I'll see everyone here on the dance club of life, because life is short, but let's be bold, let's be beautiful, and let's just make it happen. Cheers, everybody. Thank you.
For joining us, and be sure to join us on the 27th of June. And for the next show, we're going to explore ethics and technology. So thanks so much, and be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Thanks, everybody.